This video is about system maps, their use and importance. If you are a practitioner or if you are a researcher looking to use systems thinking or systems theory and systems maps, then this video would be very useful for you. The material were supported by the authors Rutter, Cavell, Bowman, and Bull in their article Systems Approaches to Global and National Physical Activity Plans, which was published by the World Health Organization Bulletin in 2019. There has been a growing recognition of the role that systems theory and tools like systems mapping play in helping to frame our responses to complex challenges and issues such as, say, obesity. Why is that? Well, systems thinking provides a framework that help us examine the factors involved in dealing with such problems. It help us identify and examine the relations between these factors and any changes made over time. But in addition to the above, systems thinking also views actions as integrated across politics, culture, economics, and science. So a system encompasses and it consists of the interactions between these components and the actors involved. And this systems approach is different. It really differs from traditional linear ways and models of cause and effect. So in relation to systems thinking, system mappings provide a visual representation of how the different components, how these, which I just mentioned, of a system relate to one another, like politics, culture, etc. Rutter and colleagues provided the example of a system map of the obesity crisis epidemic in the UK to show these complex dynamic influences that drive obesity. And you can search this map. It's available online. I couldn't put it here for copyright reasons. So why do we use systems maps? Well, systems maps can represent the complex as well as the multiple sectors involved in a problem. And because of that, they map out and expose a system by showing the factors that have previously been conflated and illustrate how these factors interact, or they propose potential mechanisms by which these factors might. They may enhance and simplify understanding of the components and processes involved. In addition, maps may be used as a basis of systems dynamic models and other models to explore causal mechanisms and potential impacts of interventions. And mapping can also support the identification of relevant data sources that we can use for monitoring and or evaluation. Also, the process of collaborating to build a map can contribute to building consensus on the nature of the problem at hand, the problem that we are dealing with, and engagement with potential policy response required to address these problems. This is because they bring together different stakeholders to tackle a problem, which can help those actors identify their parts and their role in the system, and to also appreciate better the roles that are being played by other actors that they may not come across on a daily basis. And another final advantage that the use of systems maps can offer is that they identify important opportunities to put influence within a system. Rutter included some very useful leverage points for influencing systems, including structural factors. For example, if we take the example of obesity, this would be the presence of walking infrastructure. Feedback mechanisms, again, if we take the example of obesity, this may include social benefits from volunteer-led, community-based physical activity supporting groups. Third, system structures, such as, for example, having a national coordinating agency for physical activity. And fourth, goals, such as having a national sports policy that has an aim of promoting physical activity across population to targets with obesity. And finally, the overarching paradigms that or worldviews, how we think basically, that shape and define a system. Like, for example, treating transport policy as a tool for promoting healthy mobility beyond the focus of, say, moving people or moving goods. So how can systems maps be used? Well, systems maps can contribute to, there are several benefits to, there are several ways that we can use systems maps. And I'll mention some of these that Rutter and his colleagues mentioned in the article because they're very, very useful. So such maps can contribute to communicating the multiple factors and across sectoral nature of the influences on, say, physical activity in the example of obesity for policymakers. Systems maps can also support the development of policy and action plans to increase physical activity in multiple ways. Also, the maps can illustrate the range of opportunities that we can use to implement policy actions across multiple areas to influence the system. They could demonstrate the breadth of partnerships that are needed, including outside, say, a health sector in the case of obesity. They could identify key areas for action that may represent opportunities for significant impacts on policy. They could support analysis and identification of key areas and priorities for action. They could support the development of tailored local level maps that include important contextual information. And they could help audit existing policy actions or plan new ones and inform monitoring and evaluation. So hopefully this gives you an idea about the systems maps, their use and importance. The examples and the explanations that are provided here are in particular very useful for when you have problems that you need to deal with as a practitioner, or that you are researching as a researcher and you're using systems thinking as a way of driving your research or practice.